real communist uprising, you only find out afterwards, like with Castro. Like, for the first 2 years, he was there to help the people, but while all the potential dissidents being rounded up and executed quietly. The same thing happens in reverse with a benevolent sting operation, which is you only find out the nature of the sting operation when it's all over. Yeah.
Actually, I want to say the Castro turning to the Soviet Union is a result of the American deep state going behind Jack Kennedy's back and forcing this embargo and all of these bad operations on Cuba. What happened is that Castro ended up becoming so isolated that the only other polar power in the world was the Soviet Union, which Cuba had to turn to. I'd say that's our fault. That's the CIA's fault.
We'll stay out that rabbit hole. It's like the nature.
I'm going to defend Cuba. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I shouldn't have drawn that with them. That's like the nature of sting operations is you only find out at the end of them. You don't announce to the people you're targeting, how you're doing it and when it will be over. It's so the size and scale of this sting operation is utterly unprecedented, and it cannot be Trump who's the one who comes along and announces it. Yeah, if at the moment if America is a bit like a computer, which is being rebooted, and when a computer reboots, it goes down all these run levels. The application shut down, and the highest level operating system functions shut down. You get down to the basic peripherals, and then the basic functioning of the CPU, and then you come back up again. Yeah. So America is currently rebooting, and the standard civilian functions are not operating. There may be a theatre of them being out there operating, but they're not. Whether it's the courts or the money system, it's basically under military control at the moment, as best I can understand it.
I do agree that we're rebooting, but for a different reason.
And we only find out if it really is benevolent at the end of it. Yeah. So your concerns that this could be even if the if you take it as read for a moment that the Q movement is attached to some kind of military endeavor to reboot America, there are many people who write to me and say, Martin, how can you know that this really is taking you to a good place?
Can I say real quick? That's my question is, you've described a lot of people in on this game. Yeah. Who the hell is left to be a white hat in your equation?
That's a difficult one to answer. Surprisingly hard to answer. It's
because you've intertwined basically all of our shared enemies in this, whether it's the giant corporations, media, the intelligence agencies, the high ranks in the military, whatever.
So I came across a little suggestion recently. I go, that's how they've done it. Yeah, how a very small force of white hat kind of people is what they've done is they've divided and conquered the deep state, and they've set them up against each other, different factions, and by having control over access to the blackmail material, they can basically turn it into whitemail. They can make the blackmail work in reverse. Is that if you don't do what we say, then we'll reveal who you are and people will turn on you. So what they've probably got is the assassins all running around, assassinating other assassins, and those who score the highest in that game get the least prison time or get let off at the end. There are ways in which a relatively small group of military intelligence can leverage their position very cleverly. So it's not obvious to me how far the rot is, and there's a lady who was a wife of senior Marine personnel. I forgot her name. She's on YouTube, and she gives all these testimonies of corruption, even in the Marines. It's very disturbing, and we don't know how much of the U.S. armed forces, for example, have been seduced and placed under inappropriate influence from other powers.
I know Jake has a question, and I'll let him get to it, but I agree with that. If you look at like what the Navy SEALs do, or what like the Mayor Petes of the military do, that's what they are. They are an extremely corrupt force. They're a black hole for money, and they are extremely corrupt. Look at what they've done in Afghanistan, but I don't think it's this idea that I think they're running a deep state that's just a perpetual extension of American empire.
And one of my friends who's Jewish and parents were both Nazi camp survivors, He says, Martin, it's the same old stuff. The cycle never ends. Yeah, and your hope that it'll end is it's crazy. It's like it's maybe not. It's like his view is it only ever installs a new ruling clique who always have to get hold of the old bureaucracy to keep the thing running. Yeah, is that there's always a settlement that has to be made where the newcomers can't just put in a whole new ruling class of their own, yeah, because the world falls apart in the process. So they always have to come to some kind of compromise. So I think there's reasons to be very powerfully hopeful that we're about to solve some very basic problems of human society, particularly around the monetary system. If we manage to get out of debt slavery, which has been around for a very, very, very long time, that's a huge, huge deal because it's what basically animates the profit from the wars.
I would agree with that, and I'm with you there, and which is why I don't understand a little bit of your belief that the corporate state is over, but I don't want to.
He appears to be incoherent. His eyes get sunken and not sunken. His ears change shape. His head changes shape. Hang on a minute, what's going on here? It's like this is just weird, and it looks like, and it's just like it's like the Truman Show coming alive, but it looks like we're watching something which is Truman Show-esque. It's like we're watching a piece of political theatre going on, and it's literally theatre. And whether it's CGI, body doubles, clones, advanced robots, apparitions from the fourth dimension, I don't know. It's just bizarre. And the President Biden character hasn't done a in-person press conference. There's no foreign dignitaries turning up. It's just a very, very weird situation. Now, given that he was accused of treason in the past, he was accused, remember, of treason by JFK Jr. when he was around. Yeah, so it's so the accusation of treason is not a new one, and he was under charge from Ukraine. He had been caught with his son going out to China. If he has been, and you go back to Kavanaugh hearings and the case of military tribunals, if he has been charged as an enemy combatant under military law, he could already be gone. Yeah, and what we're seeing is a carefully constructed process to skirt and evade the civil war that would have happened if we had gone straight into a second Trump presidency, particularly one which had just perpetuated the apparent legitimacy of the Washington DC establishment. So that the whole purpose here is to not just delegitimize, but to remove that establishment, yeah, and to put a new system of government in place. But I think it's one that's putting power back to the states and therefore the people. It's so I think that's how America is going to evade the fate of other places that have just taken out one ruling class and put in another one which grows tyrannical over time. That's my sense of it. It's utterly surreal, but the evidence on the ground is that we don't have a normal presidency there. The White House is literally dark. There's no flag above it. There's no Marines guarding it. The inauguration was really, really weird. The weather kept changing. It's like, whoa, the clouds have come, the clouds are gone. It's there were no insignia on the military there. There was no salute. It was at the wrong time. It's like, hang on, what's going on here? It's wacky. Yeah. So I think it's we may all get to laugh afterwards because I think it's the process of showing us how easily we're duped, and it won't surprise me. And so for those from the more Q side of the audience, it won't surprise me if the Q process has also constructed a few things to deliver a bit of humility to everybody. So I think what we're seeing is a military demonstration of what's been going on for decades, which is we have been stuck in a Truman Show-esque fake reality, and all of us have. Yeah, and some of us have been provoked to question that reality a bit quicker than others because of our circumstances and whatever. Go ahead.
Okay, I want to pitch a scenario to you.
Yeah.
A guy who is essentially like Ronald Reagan, he's brain dead,
Yeah.
won a primary during a pandemic where the other main contender was telling his supporters not to go out and vote, as mail-in ballots were being messed with by Democratic parties as well as Trump. Here's my scenario to you. Maybe all the media and everything that's consumed by the other half of the country did actually get them to turn out. They elected this brain dead guy, not necessarily because anyone likes him, but because all that media that's been screaming about Trump, and I will say a lot of it's unreasonable, but half of the country that consumes like political media on the regular is consuming that stuff. And I think, and consider this, the much more likely scenario is you have a brain dead candidate in there. He very well could be a deep fake